Did you know that forest hosts about 80% of biodiversity on this planet? 80% of biodiversity. That means if we want to manage our biodiversity, it is utterly important in the way we conserve, we manage, and we sustain our forests. Well, if I say biodiversity, I will give you the exact statistics. 85% of amphibian species are held by forests. 75% of bird species are present in forests, and 65% of mammals are present in forests. Well, tropical forests host about 68% of vascular plants. We are extremely dependent on few wild foods like honey, some berries, and more importantly, there are a lot of edible plant shoots like wild carrots, wild onions, and some cultures even consume edible insects. Okay, grasshoppers, caterpillars, and other species, related species. Many cultures depend on edible insects as well. And the plant biodiversity that the forest has, our culture has this system of medicine called Ayurveda. It is totally dependent on plants and their medicinal uses. Not just that, modern medicine uses 25% of the modern medicine derives from forest and related products. 28,000 plant species are said to have medicinal uses. So, well, whispers of the wild. I would want to start the session with one of the whispers that I heard 6 months ago. So, this slide that you're seeing is of Jilminjil Conservation Reserve. So, this is a conservation reserve that is in Uttarakhand. And I want to begin my talk with the whispers that I heard. Well, I had an opportunity to be here at this place on one morning, one early morning, and it is so beautiful to be here, to watch the sunrise, to feel the damp earth, and to listen to the cooing of birds. Well, this place strikes you with a different energy because it's not any other marshland, but this is one of the primordial terrain marshlands that survived untouched in the entire country. What do I mean by primordial? Primordial is something that exists from the beginning of the early stages of Earth's development. So it has survived more than a millennium, and nothing would have changed. And I would have been an nth visitor visiting this place, and nothing changed. It strikes you with altogether different energy and aura. And this place is a low-lying site, and it survives the only herd of swamp deer of Barasinga. Okay, deer species is a very important species in the ecosystem, and there are good number of species present here. And you can spot snow leopards here. And in the third picture below, you can see that it is a vast land. As far as the eye can see, this marshland is present. It is marshy, it is misty, it's beautiful, it is untouched. You can actually experience what silence is, and what the forests are trying to tell you, the kind of whispers, the kind of communication they have with each other. I somehow felt, and I'm sure many of the other visitors who've been here must have definitely felt, the trees and biodiversity there talk to each other. Okay, they actually communicate with each other, and research also says that trees talk to each other, and this is a thriving example of biodiversity and wildlife together. And there are Asian elephants here, there are leopards, and there are hyenas, there are foxes and different types, and it is biodiverse rich, and it is extremely beautiful. Well, why should we even talk about forests, in this fast paced life, when we are more bothered about things that take our attention, like, which tech park am I working, which company am I working for, which mall did I visit, what did I buy, how many flats do I own? And it is in this era of high consumerism, why should we talk about forests? Why do they even matter? Because forests are the lungs of life and life of our planet. Okay, let me tell you some quick facts. Did you know that forests host about 80% of biodiversity on this planet? 80% of biodiversity. That means if we want to manage our biodiversity, it is utterly important in the way we conserve, we manage, and we sustain our forests. Well, if I say biodiversity, I will give you the exact statistics. 85% of amphibian species are held by forests. 75% of bird species are present in forests. And 65% of mammals are present in forests. Well, tropical forests host about 68% of vascular plants. What are vascular plants? Plants that have a lot of derivative value for humans. Plants that grow tall, that grow wide, they have a lot of branches and green cover, and that can in turn sustain many other life forms on themselves. Well, mangroves. We hear so much about mangroves in news all the time, right? And many of you, I am sure most of you must have visited some or the other mangrove belt, and they're extremely beautiful and one of brilliant examples of the intelligence of nature. They are the species that can survive in salt water. You know, very few species survive in salt water, and they are salt water tolerant species, and they do an amazing work in controlling the floods, right? So if we talk about mangroves, the first state that comes to our mind, can you guess which is the state we talk about when it comes to mangroves? West Bengal, right? And our Telugu state, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu also has mangrove forest line, right? But strikingly comes is the West Bengal, the state of West Bengal, where Royal Bengal tiger exists in mangroves. They're not just forests, but they are rich wildlife habitat as well, and they offer natural protection to floods. Okay, and their roots are so deep. By the way, they have prop roots, and they are viviparous in nature. In the sense, it is very interesting to see that the offspring, the seed, falls on the tree itself, takes birth, the roots grow upwards, and once it comes to a certain age, they will fall into the water and again grow. Okay, so such beautiful species. These roots actually hold the soil. Okay, they prevent flooding. All the villages that are present in around mangroves are safe only because these plants offer act as natural barriers to floods. And also, they hold back some very few interesting sediments, which, if not held, will enter the seabeds and destroy the entire marine ecosystems. Those sediments are a threat to marine species. Okay, so they offer barrier against floods, and they hold back a lot of crucial sediments that should not enter the sea. Well, pollination. Pollination is the basic science that all of us know. And without pollination, we would go famished. We will not have coffee to drink in the morning. We will not have chocolates to munch on. All these are products of pollination. Well, we think just by air, pollination happens, right? Plants can bear fruits once they grow flowers, and they can pollinate naturally. Yes, naturally also pollination happens, but that's less than 20% of pollination. More than 75% of world's leading food crops all depend on animal pollination. Okay, what do I mean by animal? Bees, insects. Later part of the presentation, I'll tell you how animals also help pollinate. Like, for example, elephants. Elephants are fantastic pollinators. Gorillas are amazing pollinators. Okay, we need all of them for the plants to pollinate and give us good food. Well, how do forests supply water? How will they erode soil? How will they prevent soil erosion? Well, forests have innumerable amount of trees, right? There are complex web of trees, and the root systems are very, very well grown, well established, and long and complex root systems. Whenever it rains, the roots hold back the soil, the roots hold back the water. So in a thick forest, you will observe that there is a lot of tree debris, right? There are a lot of dry leaves and twigs and other things that are present on the forest bed. And when it rains, water slowly gets infiltrated into the soil. Otherwise, if this tree debris wasn't there, surface runoff would happen. You know, all the water will directly enter rivers and then into the sea. But we have regulated water flow because of the amazing work the roots of the forest do. They hold back water, they hold back soil, and once it stops raining, they release water drop by drop by drop, and they form streams and rivulets and into the rivers and into the seas and then into the oceans. Okay. And without these rivulets and rivers and lakes, they are the lifelines for our civilization and we wouldn't exist at all. So it is this amazing work that the forests do that we are able to derive a lot of value out of the water that they release. Okay, and desertification. Desertification is an alarming crisis that the world is facing today, right? Did you know that over the past century, Sahara Desert has grown by 10%? Well, that is desertification. Desertification begins with soil losing its fertility. You know, fertile soil beginning to become sand, which has no organic matter, which has no humus, and which cannot sustain forests and wildlife is called a desert. Okay. And we are heading towards desertification because we are cutting trees indiscriminately. Okay. And climate change. Well, climate change is the most talked about topic. Okay. From a conference of parties to treaties and many other things, climate change is always in news. But it is not just a cliche topic, but it is the need of the hour because temperatures are rising. You know, planet is getting warmer and warmer by the day. And we need trees because trees are excellent carbon sequestration mechanisms. They can absorb carbon dioxide in a brilliant manner. They regulate temperature and they also regulate humidity in the atmosphere. So trees are absolutely necessary. So is it all about pollination and floods and desertification and biodiversity? What else does forests do? They do have a fantastic economic value. Across the world, 86 million green jobs. That means 86 million people are dependent directly on forests for timber harvesting, for fuel wood collection, and other related trades. There are 86 million green jobs that these forests are offering. And wild foods. Can you name one wild food?
Star fruit.
Star fruit. Okay. And
Berries.
berries. All right. Something that we consume every day. You know, doctors say you begin your day with this. Honey, right? We are extremely dependent on few wild foods like honey, as ma'am said, some berries. And more importantly, there are a lot of edible plant shoots like wild carrots, wild onions, and some cultures even consume edible insects. Okay, grasshoppers, caterpillars, and other species, related species. Many cultures depend on edible insects as well. So we are extremely dependent on wild foods. And to quote a statistic, European Union consumes 54% of wild food across the world, right? And the plant biodiversity that the forest has, our culture has this system of medicine called Ayurveda. It is totally dependent on plants and their medicinal uses. Not just that, modern medicine uses 25% of the modern medicine derives from forest and related products. 28,000 plant species are said to have medicinal uses. Well, it has a lot of definitely physical and mental impact, right? So, is there anyone who gets depressed after entering a forest, going for a forest trek? No, right? So, in our culture, we always associated and had a lot of spiritual significance to the forest. They are known to reduce blood pressure, they are known to calm your mind, soothe your mind, and they also inspire a lot of poets, writers, artists, and music composers. Well, forests matter a lot. All people depend on a planet, some more than the other, on forests. And human health and well-being are closely associated with forests. Well, this was about forests. And what about wildlife? So I have a pet at home. I have a parrot at home. I have an African grey parrot at home. So am I supporting wildlife? Is that enough? Well, wildlife is one of the most important aspects of this planet. This entire planet thrives because of wildlife. Statistics say that we would vanish if bees vanish. Okay. just mere bees, the small bees, if they vanish, humanity would vanish. That is the importance of wildlife. Well, predators regulate prey populations, and that's how they balance the biodiversity. Well, what do I mean by predators? All the apex predators like lions, tigers, cheetahs, okay, all these eat the lower. Okay, let me explain food web. All of us know food web, right? So we know the story. Grass is eaten by the grasshopper. Grasshopper is eaten by a frog. Frog is eaten by a snake, and snake is eaten by a hawk. And hawk, when it dies, is decomposed. So this is the food web. Each species is interconnected with each other. If what happens if we hunt too many lions or too many tigers? What happens if tigers vanish? It's okay, let's have them only in zoos, no? So what happens? What happens is that the prey populations will multiply. There will be too many deers and they will be overgrazing, and there will be no graze left for cattle, for livestock. Okay, so predators regulate prey populations, herbivores control vegetations, and scavengers clean up ecosystems. Well, they also help in climate regulation. For example, elephants, they eat variety of plants, they eat variety of fruits, and the elephant dung is rich with seeds. Okay, they roam around the forest. It is said that they roam about 80 to 90 kilometers at one stretch. Okay, and wherever they roam and wherever they poop, their poop is full of good seeds that are ready to germinate. And the poop also supports a lot of beetle dung populations that help in porosity of soil. Okay, so when these plants grow, from the poop, when the plants grow, they act as carbon sinks. Okay, they help sequester carbon, and hence they are excellent climate regulators. And wildlife also has a lot of economic significance. Like we enjoy wildlife tourism, right? Wildlife tourism, wildlife photography, and the wild meat and the wild, anything like wild we like, and there is an economic value. And for us, traditionally, this culture has always looked at wildlife with a lot of reverence and worship. Okay. We have Lord Ganesha with an elephant head. So we have a lot of cultural significance as well. And there are a lot of scientific and medical benefits from wildlife. And that's why this poaching, that's why this wildlife trade, and that's why the CITES treaty in place to regulate trade in wildlife. Okay. And no wonder we always inspire and have a lot of wonder for wildlife. So, in a time of rapid climate change and biodiversity loss, wildlife conservation is not optional, but it is essential. By protecting wildlife, we are also protecting our own present and future generations. We will provide them with clean air, clean water, a stable climate, and a healthier and more resilient planet. Well, this comes the most interesting part. So, what is the picture that you see on the screen? The most striking picture of all the four on the left. Okay, there is a tiger, right? See, these days I see animal pictures only in my kids' books. So T for tiger, C for chimpanzee. Okay, they are actually vanishing. And the tiger that you see on the left side of the screen is machli. How many of you heard about machli? Well, machli is a tiger that is from the Ranthambore forest. It passed away recently, but it was, wildlife photographers' passion to catch machli, because it is an amazing, camera friendly animal, that you must say. It used to flaunt itself. It would enjoy, it would like getting photographed. Well, for many of us, tiger means this tiger in Ranthambore forest. But tiger is a very, very important species. Okay. So in 2023, Project Tiger completed 50 years of launch. And tiger is one of the iconic big cats of India, right? And Project Tiger's success speaks volumes about the conservation efforts that India did take up. So, how did it all begin? Why we're talking about tiger today? Because tiger numbers started dwindling, and it all began in the pre-British era. We must have seen in movies and in books that, a helmeted hunter with a rifle in hand and a recently shot tiger next to him is an all too common scene. It is a very popular scene. There will be photographs, picture frames of a tiger being killed and kept next to the hunter. Well, there was a lot of indiscriminate killing in the British era. And even after independence, hunters began to kill tigers left, right, and center. We do not even know how many tigers were killed. Okay, but it all stopped, gradually stopped in 1969 when the IUCN held its General Assembly in New Delhi and they passed a moratorium of hunting tigers. Okay, they passed a resolution that we will not hunt tigers anymore but conserve them. The then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi was herself a wildlife enthusiast. She backed up this resolution and the parliament successfully passed the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. Well, in less than a year, in April 1973, Project Tiger was launched. Okay. And in 2006, there were just about 1,400 odd tigers. And right now, we can boast about 3,682 tigers in the country. Okay. The entire world wanted to protect tigers because they were vanishing at a very alarming rate. But it is Indians and the local communities of India that helped conserve tigers, okay, that made this project successful. So what is so special about this tiger conservation project Tiger? The one thing that stands out is the government involved the local communities. The forest department worked closely with local communities and it led community efforts in conserving this apex predator. Okay, it is very much in the fabric of this nation to respect wildlife. Okay, unless and until there are poachers and hunters, they are not we don't kill them, okay, just for fun. Only the elite or the famous kill them, but then the communities that are closely associated with the forest do not kill them. So this community led efforts help conserve this wildlife species. The lesson that it told the world is that conservation is not about enforcement of law. It is not just anti-poaching activities or anti-poaching law that can just help the species survive, but aligning the needs of people and their culture with the wildlife needs is what led to the success of Project Tiger. Well, what do you see on the right side? It's a gorilla, right? So these are called mountain gorillas and they are another interesting species. Okay, every species is interesting, every species is important, it has its own role to play. But I picked mountain gorilla because they're called the grasshoppers of the planet. They are called the grasshoppers of the forest. They also, like elephants, eat a variety of fruits, plants, and their feces contain good seeds that can germinate. Okay, and it's called the gardener of the forest because it climbs up all the way to the forest. It pulls down the plants. It forages. During its foraging, it kind of prunes a tree. Okay, like how a gardener prunes a tree, this gorilla actually prunes a tree and it allows sunlight to enter the forest and it helps the sun-loving plants to thrive. Okay, so like that, it is a very important species and it is an indicator species. In a forest, if gorilla is present, it indicates the health of the forest. It indicates the health of the ecosystem. And this small rodent-like creature that you see here are actually beavers, okay? And beavers are smart animals. They're very intelligent animals. And beavers actually build dams. Isn't it amazing? Beavers actually build dams. They can, they can fell a tree which is 1 foot wide overnight. And I wish I could show you a video. You can go back and see how beavers build dams, okay? Actually, they can fell a tree and they will pull the log into the water and create a natural barrier for the flow of water. And a dam is constructed. Why do they do that? Because they will create habitats for themselves. They will stay in those spaces beneath the log in the dams, and that's where they breed. That's where they stay. Okay. And how does it help the ecosystem? When you build a dam, there is a pond that naturally gets created, and in turn, it actually becomes a wetland. Okay. And there is a lot of biodiversity like fish and different insects and birds that thrive in this space. So they are called ecosystem engineers. They're smart animals that can actually build dams. And the last picture that you see is of the blue whale. Blue whale is said to be the largest animal on the planet of the Earth. Okay, they are amazing species and blue whales actually sing. They sing. And each whale has a unique song. How tigers are identified is through their stripes. Okay, each stripe of a tiger is different from the other. Like fingerprints, they have stripes. And whales, they sing. So each whale is distinctively identified from another with the song they sing. Okay, at low frequency, using some equipment, we can actually understand the whales and their population. Well, why are we talking about whales? Because they are apex predators in the marine ecosystem. They actually eat a lot of krill. Krills are crustacean-like species, like small prawns kind of thing, and they help control krill population in marine ecosystems. If whales were not there, they would indiscriminately grow. And the whale's poop has nitrogen and phosphorus, okay, and rich in iron. This three combination is extremely necessary for phytoplankton in water to survive. What are phytoplanktons? They're small plant kind of a thing that exist on the surface of the sea, and they are the primary producers. Phytoplanktons are the primary producers. This phytoplankton is like grass on land, okay? This phytoplankton is eaten by zooplankton, and zooplankton in turn is eaten by fish and other species, and fish and krills and other species. And this krill population in turn is controlled by the whales. If whales are not there, phytoplanktons are not there, you know what is the consequence? Okay, let me break a myth for you. Trees produce oxygen for us, right? But they are not the major sources of oxygen on the planet. Oceans produce more oxygen than trees. By oceans, I mean phytoplanktons. Phytoplanktons do photosynthesis exactly the way the plants do, the trees do, and they absorb carbon dioxide and release oxygen. And oceans release the maximum oxygen on this planet. So whales play a very, very prominent role in controlling the krill population and help in the growth of phytoplankton. Well, since 400 years, whales were killed indiscriminately for the oil, for the blubber, just for fun. They have been killed indiscriminately. And it is said that 95% of whales vanished from the surface of the earth. In 1986, the world woke up and the International Whaling Commission was formed, and they said no more commercial whaling. Okay. But still, scientific whaling is allowed. And even since 1986, 43,000 whales are killed by countries like Japan, Iceland, and Norway. Okay. But killing whales is no good to the ecosystem, and their presence helps balance marine eco-biodiversity, right? So a forest without wildlife is just a plantation. It's the tiger, the ant, and the frog that bring it to life.